Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Best Adventure Podcast. I'm Brian Sherwood, and with me today is a very good friend of mine. Please welcome Mr. Jonny Clay. All right, Jonny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you, big guy.
You as well. So, let's talk, man. Thanks for coming over here and being the first guest on the podcast. I appreciate that very much.
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me over to do this.
Anytime. So, obviously the podcast is mostly about adventures and how to live your best adventure. What are you doing to live yours, and what's the future hold for you?
So, as most people that are familiar with me know, I am an avid fisherman. I basically live next to and on top of the water, which is weird because I hate to swim. But I guess really that's kind of my main addiction right now. But we're going to try to start moving that into a company that I've come up with called Wild Night Adventures. It eventually will be a fully certified 501c3 nonprofit organization where we will focus on taking vets and disabled kids primarily out into nature and kind of showing them the ropes on hunting, fishing, backpacking, kayaking, camping, and then I'd like to open it up to the public and try to let people enjoy the spots that they otherwise wouldn't really make it out to.
That is fucking awesome, dude. When exactly are you looking to get this started? Like, I know you're working through the paperwork and the red tape right now. So where's that leave you?
So we've got the website and everything set up. It hasn't been launched yet. We're really just waiting for the right time for that. We've been accumulating all kinds of gear. I'm sure you've seen the insane amount of fishing poles that I have. We're really just trying to put it together one piece at a time. I'm not really trying to rush it because I know that there's a lot to do with stuff like that. Actually, a big key spot of it came together when we went ice fishing. My mentor, Roland, brought his buddy. I'm blanking on his name right now, but after Cody, that's right. After we got done fishing that second day, I was talking to Cody, and he said that he actually works with disabled and troubled youth here in Fort Collins, and that was one of the reasons that he moved from California to Colorado was to continue doing that job. And as soon as I told him that that's what I wanted to do, his response was, "Oh man, I already have a couple of kids that I can think of that would totally benefit from that."
That's awesome. And those kids are around here?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're all in Loveland, I believe.
Awesome. So what are you thinking, like within the year, right? At least?
I would like to. That first trip that we did ice fishing up in Steamboat was just kind of like a kickoff to try to get things going to see how difficult organizing something like that would be. And obviously my problem is the same problem that most people that are trying to create something have, as I'm sure you know. It's funds.
Right.
Like, it's just so hard to get the money together to be able to provide like lodging and food and all of that. And it was a good first test run. So I guess, to be completely honest, we're off and running, but just nowhere near where we need to be to start making a serious impact in the with the clientele that we need to gain in order to get it going as something more serious.
Okay. So basically, you're just looking for more funding, and once that comes through, you'll be able to like really expedite the process and make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, so what's the ultimate goal? Is it to have people out like what, like once a week, once a month? What are you trying to do?
So right now, what I'd like to do is get it to the point where we can have people out once a month. Uh, I'd like to do something a little bit more than that, but uh, I've just got so many other things going on in my life right now with real estate and with my wife and I growing our contracting company that I guess funding isn't my only issue. It's time.
Time, yeah, time was it'll get you every time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
you're either fighting against it or fighting for it, and
yeah.
it's a nightmare.
It's and that's the thing is that I realize that time is not just one of our most valuable commodities, but also that there's no reason to really fight the clock because it's going to keep ticking regardless.
Yeah, no matter what you do.
Yeah. So if I can just start getting stuff together piece by piece, then it'll eventually come to fruition on its own terms, and that's kind of what I would like to do. The outdoors. Yeah, I know that a lot of people are worried about the state of the climate and everything,
Right.
but from where I'm sitting, and I'm no expert or scientist or anything, but I see us still having plenty of time to make a serious difference and a serious change, not only in allowing people to enjoy the things that I've grown up enjoying, but to educate people on the outdoors and all the different flora and fauna, and give people really like a reason to fight for something worth saving.
Right, right. I kind of know what you're talking about. Like, people go out into nature and they look at it and they're, oh man, it's so beautiful and so peaceful and tranquil. But they don't really know all the different pieces of that nature and how they interact with each other. And that's where that
Exactly.
education comes in. You
Yeah.
have to understand what you're really seeing and how it all interacts because we're part of that nature.
As hard as we fight it,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
100% part of that
Absolutely,
nature.
and I mean, we're just as much of nature as the rocks and the trees and the wind, the birds, and all that.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the beautiful things about going out there. And me, I preach it all the time. I firmly believe in the healing power of nature.
Yeah.
Firmly believe in it.
As do
So
I.
I think what you're doing with Wild Night Adventures is amazing. I can't wait to see it take off.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it too. It's kind of what I grew up doing. My mom was a real outdoor nut. My dad was a big hunter. He didn't fish quite as much, but he was always outside doing
Okay.
something and traveling to different places. And I got to do a decent bit of traveling and everything. And then when I got to junior high, I went to like one of the first charter schools in Colorado, and it was called Pioneer Expeditionary Learning.
Okay.
And a big part of that was being out of the classroom every Thursday. And for a lot of that, what we did was we went and helped local farmers clean up their land, and we went backpacking. I mean, I think 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I was able to backpack Cortez, Colorado, Moab, Needles, Arches, and the Grand Canyon.
Nice.
So it really just like threw all of that kind of
You
into
do
overdrive.
that like as a class, like with your class, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, how many people?
So I think when I was there, we had maybe 25 people
That's
in
a
my
big
grade.
group.
Yeah. So when we did like the Grand Canyon, we split off into two groups, and there was like 8 of us that actually went down into the canyon and backpacked for 5 days, maybe 4 days. I can't remember exactly. But then there was an even bigger group of people that just hung out at the top of the canyon.
Right.
And that was actually initially my plan, was just to hang out and play with my friends and everything. And then I kind of had a last minute change of heart, and it was actually my birthday was the day that we decided to head down into the canyon. And I couldn't ask for a better birthday. It was absolutely life changing. And
sure.
we got to go all the way down and then hiked along the Colorado River for about a day, and then made it back out. And it was totally something that I've got pictures of me going in and I've got like nice, clean, fresh clothes on, and then when I get back out, my boots are torn up, my
Yep.
jeans are all ripped, like I'm just covered in mud, and I've got the biggest smile on my face, and I just, it all brought it home for me, and that's where I was like, dude, I don't ever want to go without being outside.
Right. Right. I'm the same way, man. From the first time I got to go out and play out in the woods and just experience that level of freedom that only being out in the wilderness and in nature can really provide you. Ever since the first time, that's what I've always wanted. I don't like being inside. I don't like working inside. I don't like being stuck in towns. I would rather be climbing a rock. I'd rather be sitting next to a campfire. I'd rather be getting dirty and fighting the wind and the weather and just enjoying every damn minute of it, man. It's incredible out there.
I completely agree, and I was raised in the country out in Wellington, and that was another big part of it too, because I learned how to work with the land and how to work with my hands and try to come up with creative ways to fix problems that a lot of people will never encounter,
Right.
especially in the city. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love to travel and I like to go see cities, but I can only last in a city for like a couple of days max when I'm on vacation, because
Right.
it's not natural. Like
Right. It's noisy. It's
it's gross.
Yeah.
Like you can feel it in your lungs, and
you know
you can, it's just, I've never understood people saying that a certain city is pretty. Like I
Right.
understand each city having its own unique characteristics,
of
but
course.
even going from Fort Collins to Denver, as soon as I get in Denver, I'm like, dude, get me out
I
of
have
here.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Just pulling up to Denver, I get anxiety.
Yeah.
And I can't wait until I get out of Denver and I'm back into the woods.
Yeah.
Because you go through it and then you veer off onto 70 and then you go off back into the woods.
Yeah.
You're up in the canyons again,
Up towards Golden and
yeah,
everything.
Yeah. But that hour that you're in Denver is just misery
Yeah.
the whole time. It's traffic, it's noise, it's pollution.
It's terrible.
Like you said, it's
terrible.
not natural.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts to be there.
And whoever came up with the term concrete jungle, man, I'd like to hit him right in the mouth, because the jungles are so much prettier
Oh yeah.
than any of that. And I mean, yeah, it's filled with complete animals, but none
Right.
of them are necessary. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. So you had a whole life of just always working outside, and loving nature. So what about your wife? Is she the same way? She enjoys being out in nature?
she does.
Okay.
So her dad, who's, I would definitely consider him like one of the coolest guys I've ever met. He's older and he's retired. She was kind of a miracle baby, and he doesn't do anything but fish. Like he loves to go sit by a lake and doesn't even care if he catches anything. And he's one of the only adults that when you're driving around in a vehicle, he will just be in complete awe of how beautiful stuff is, even if he's seen it 100 times.
Right.
So when she grew up, he did a lot of fishing, and she would look for shiny rocks and berries and find different colors in nature to mash up and make into paint. And then she would paint crazy little things on rocks and trees and sticks and all kinds of stuff. So now she's absolutely obsessed with nature, and we work for ourselves, but it's so much more difficult than people make it seem like, because there is no off days, especially in the beginning. Like if you take time off, that's time that your business isn't growing, and the whole reason that we're trying to grow our business is so that we can spend more time outside. So she calls it nature therapy, and she literally starts to lose her mind if she's spent too long working or inside, and especially in the winter, like it's terrible. But we were able to do a program called 75 Hard, where we have to go outside for 45 minutes every day, and she absolutely hates when it's cold, but we geniusly decided to start it right in the middle of winter. So we would spend at least 45 minutes outside every single day, and we're almost done with it. We've got like 15 days left, and we were talking about it a couple days ago, and she goes, "You know what? I think we picked the perfect time to do it because it's really taught me that even though it's cold outside, you can still go outside. It means that you need better gear, but it doesn't stop you from going and enjoying what's out there."
Absolutely.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's been great. I've kind of been the same way. I've hated being outside um, in the winter just because I'm such a baby with the cold.
Right.
But one of the great things about marrying my wife is that she knows how much I love to be outside, especially if I get to be outside and fish. So every year she gets me like new gear to make being outside more tolerable. And so now I've got great winter gear. She's got pretty decent winter gear, and it's changed absolutely everything. I mean, instead of being able to enjoy outside for 6 to 7 months out of the year, we can go 12.
There you go. And then now next year, when winter comes rolling around, she starts getting that idea. You guys start feeling like, oh man, it's winter again, and I don't even want to go outside. You'll remember that.
Yeah.
And you'll remember how you can do it, and that'll help you motivate and, kind of get into something else maybe that you haven't gotten into in the past, and kind of push yourself and challenge yourself and experience even more adventures, man.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
The only thing that I think is going to drive me nuts about winter for forever is the fact that I can't cast when the ice is frozen, when the water's frozen. Because as much as I love fishing, ice fishing gets pretty old by the end of it.
Right.
But
yeah, it doesn't have the same feel, as when you can actually cast and enjoy yourself and walk up and down on the shore, or get in a boat, or all of that.
I went fishing with the kids actually yesterday, and it's one of the first times that I've been able to actually go cast and search around, and we had a couple of bites and didn't catch anything, and I was happy as a clam just being able to chuck my lure out as far as I could get it, and do all the different actions and everything it comes with, and it's just not something that you really can enjoy as much as ice fishing. Like just sitting there and bobbing your pole up and down gets monotonous, to say the least.
It does, yeah. And whereas, when you can actually cast, you can, you cast it in, you reel it in. This spot's not really working so well. You just take a little bit of a walk. You can go somewhere else. Or it's so much better than just, sitting next to a little hole.
And being like, this hole's tapped. Let's drill one over there.
Right.
That one's tapped. Let's drill one over here.
Right.
Yeah. No, I much prefer open water, and especially since I've only taken up fishing on the lakes for the last maybe 2 or 3 years is all. That's really all I want to do now, is just go walk around the lakes. And we've got a canoe that we bought a couple years ago, and my wife's dad has an awesome boat that we take out on the lakes and get to go tool around in. And her uncle's got 4 or 5 sitting in his backyard that he's just absolutely hoarded and has never been behind the wheel of a single one of them.
Wow.
So he offered to let me come pick one up this spring, and that's going to be my new project, is trying to basically build my own boat from nothing but the hull, because I don't even know what kind of condition they're in. I mean, he's in his 80s, and who knows how long those boats have been sitting out there. I don't even know if the trailers are in good enough condition to tow the boats.
Right. So, well, I mean, that's part of the adventure, right?
Oh, 100%.
Figuring it out, figuring out the problems and fixing them, and kind of, making it your own.
Yeah.
At that point, that's awesome. That's what I did with my truck.
Yeah.
I bought a pile of rust for fucking $2,000 and didn't even know how to change my oil. And now I have a fully functioning truck.
Yeah.
It took time. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but teaching yourself that, it gives you confidence, And, I mean, you know this. You've learned all kinds of things over the last couple of years with starting your own business and, learning new skills that you might not have had before. It gives you confidence, and you start feeling like you're 10 feet tall, you're bulletproof, you can fly and use the force, and nothing in the world can stop you. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the book I was telling you about earlier. It's so funny when you start learning something and all you can think is, I'm shit at this. Like, I'm
Right.
never going to learn how to do this. And then when you start talking to other people that are in the same spot that you were years ago, months ago, even a couple weeks ago, or they've even been in it longer than you, but you've picked up a skill by teaching yourself that they still don't know yet, absolutely. It makes you bulletproof. You're like, it's a whole different feeling. It's much different than anything that you can experience by learning about it in school and then going out and getting a job doing it, because it is totally something that you're able to do and be like, I fucking did that.
Right.
I wasn't taught that. I taught myself how to do that. And especially in an age where everybody's going to YouTube University, like, it's great to watch however many videos you want to on whatever, but it doesn't mean shit until you actually apply it in a way that's necessary for what you need it for.
I agree. And I think a lot of people are too afraid to do that. Like, so many people are so content in being mediocre and sitting on the sidelines and saying, "Oh yeah, one day I'm going to do this," and that day never comes, because ultimately they might be, too scared, or they might have something in their head that's telling them that they're not good enough, or something like that. But really, none of that is true.
No,
it's like,
it's
we're
our
all
own
capable.
limitations. Yeah.
And those are limiting beliefs that people have about themselves, and they might have come from somebody else, and they might have come from social media, or they might have come from their own head at some point. But each individual has to take the step back and look at that and realize it and say, you know what? No, man, I can do anything, because you can.
Yeah. If you take the time and you put in the effort, then there's nothing you can't do.
Right.
I mean, when I've been trying to learn real estate and everything, I've had ideas about how to structure different deals and how to find houses and how to unload them and all of that. And I've even gone to real estate agents and investors and all kinds of people that have been doing it for 25 years plus. And when I tell them my ideas, they're like, hey, that'll never work. And that's instantly lighting a fire under my ass to be like, just you wait.
Right.
Yes, it will.
Right. It didn't work for you last time.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean it's not going to work for me this time.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I love that attitude. I'm so happy that some people at least still have that attitude.
Yeah.
So many people give up when somebody's like, "Oh, that's not going to work." They're, "Oh, yeah, you're right," and then they give up.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. Like, believe in yourself. Don't believe the negativity that somebody else is telling you.
Be ready to fail, but always fail forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you fail, so what, man? Tighten your bootlaces and get after it again. Just do it again.
Yeah. Failure's only failure if you stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, it's a learning experience, because knowing what to do is just as important as knowing what not to do.
Absolutely.
If not, learning what not to do is probably more important than learning what to do, because everybody can put out as much information as they want on pretty much anything, and it doesn't mean dick until you learn all the ways that it won't work.
Right. And that's why it's important to do things that you're uncomfortable with. And that's why it's important to fail at those things. Because through that failure, you learn, what did and what didn't work. And then you can sit back, you can reassess, and you can readjust and try again. You can't do that if every time you do something you win. You're never learning those valuable lessons. You're never experiencing what it's like to put forth the effort and not have it succeed.
Yeah,
I think that's vital for people. You have to struggle. You have to fight for it.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I love being outside so much, is because there's a million books on how to go backpacking or hiking or whatever, but it's so unpredictable.
Right.
It's like Mother Nature will throw at you whatever she's got hidden in her panties. No book on this earth is going to tell you how to deal with. I mean, how quickly storms roll in here in Colorado.
Absolutely.
And that's something that you can pick up little bits of information here and there on, but it's not until you get out in the shit that you can be like, oh, okay, so this is a storm out of nowhere, or this is the wind changing directions when I've been walking the same direction with the wind at my back, and now I can't figure out what direction it's coming from.
Right. You can read about it all day long. It's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times have you read about, what to do if you're caught in a thunderstorm and don't hide here and do hide here? But what happens when you're out on the rocks? And this has happened to me. You're out in there and it's a sunny, beautiful day. And within minutes, it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
The sky's
Downpour
darkened.
and lightning.
And you're up there on those rocks. There's nowhere to hide. Lightning striking everywhere around you.
Yeah.
Because those rocks just grab the lightning out of the sky, man. It's crazy.
The information.
I've been almost hit so many times. Books aren't going to tell you how to keep your head cool and to think that through.
Yeah.
You don't learn that from a book. You learn that through experience.
With all the information that we have readily available at our fingertips, people have never been dumber.
Yeah.
And it's because somebody can read something or listen to a podcast about it or go look it up on YouTube, and as soon as the shit hits the fan, like, they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And it's complete panic.
Yeah, because you can sit there and read all you want or watch videos all you want about, what's going to happen if you get lost in the woods. Motherfucker, if you haven't been lost in the woods, you don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
It consumes your mind.
Yeah.
Because you're, oh my God, what am I going to do? And you start thinking about, how much water do I have? How much food do I have? What direction am I traveling? I can't figure anything out. I am lost. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I have been completely lost in the woods and walked for hours only to find out I was going the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, my little brother and I got lost on a camping trip. Okay. And we decided to go do some romping and see kind of where we were, and before we knew it, the sun was down. And we're trying to make our way back to the tent with no light, no water, no food, no nothing. And it took us several hours of freaking out and being like, well, what are we going to do? Until we finally figured out kind of to retrace our steps. The next morning, we got back and everything, but the next morning when we decided to go see where we had been lost, we were maybe 30 yards from our camp.
Yeah.
And
sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah.
You can get lost within eyesight of where you're trying to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very easily. And that's something that, like I said, you can't read that.
Yeah.
That's something that until you experience it, you don't know that feeling of, how your heart reacts and how your mind reacts.
And that's the most important part. I mean, you can have all the information in the world, but it's until you know how you're going to handle it.
Yes.
Because if you read a story about someone else that got lost or something, you can read about how somebody else handled it.
Right.
But, humans are like fingerprints.
Yep.
There's no two alike. There's no two who think the same or act the same. And especially when it's in a more dangerous situation, like ones that nothing like Mother Nature can throw at you, it's really... It's making yourself more familiar with the situations that'll help you out of it.
Right. And I guess like something simple to compare that to is like driving. Because people react differently, right?
Yeah.
So when something happens when you're driving, like say you're driving on ice, some people, when their brakes don't work, they panic.
Yeah.
And some people just instinctively don't panic, and they're able to maneuver through the situation.
Yeah.
And that's the same everywhere. That's the same with getting lost, same with being hungry and having no water, and whatever it is.
Yeah.
It all comes down to, can I take this deep breath? Can I focus and make this work?
Yeah, and that's one big thing that I've learned about life is I can't remember who said it, but it was a famous author that said the quickest way out of hell is to put your head down and keep going.
That's right.
Like there's really no other thing that you can do to turn around and hightail it out of a situation. It might have been
going through hell. Keep going.
Yeah, it might have been.
Sorry.
No, but that's the thing is that it's funny when you think about how a lot of Native American and indigenous tribes, like part of their rite of passage was sending the young men off into the wilderness alone. Right. Because if you don't make it back, that's it.
Yeah.
Like there's no such thing as better luck next time.
Right.
It's do you have it or do you not?
Right. And that's one of those ethoses that go way back.
Yeah.
That goes all the way back to Spartan times, and I'm sure probably before. I'm sure that there were tribes and early humanity that did the same thing. Like, hey, go figure it out. Go get food and get water, and if you don't come back, we're not gonna fucking wait for you.
Yeah.
We got to keep going too.
And we're probably not even coming looking for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
yeah,
sink or swim.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fine. I think it's a great way to live. That most people these days, like, people are getting coddled all the time, and they don't get that experience of that. They're just kind of given everything. Like our kids. Our kids are never going to know certain things. They're not going to know a world unless something drastic happens, which who knows, it could with the way that the world is these days.
Yeah.
But unless something drastic happens, our kids are never going to know that there was a world before being able to just reach in their pocket, pull out a little magic box, and have every single answer they've ever needed.
Yeah.
They don't know what that's like.
Yeah. I mean, if you're hungry, you go to the fridge.
Yeah.
If you're cold, you go inside and turn up the heat. If you got to go to the bathroom, you go to your comfy little toilet and take a shit.
Exactly.
It's
they don't
so
know
different
struggle
out there.
and pain.
Hardship. Yeah. Our kids will almost never know hardship. And, it's even hard with my 7-year-old son, because he is so coddled, and I honestly don't know if he would be able to pull himself through like really true hard times, but he's very interested in going out and learning. So that's definitely something that I'm going to try to instill in him is, spending more time outside and
absolutely
and learning how to be a decent human, not just what you do in front of people, but the essence of character, doing what you're doing when nobody else is around.
Absolutely.
Nobody's there to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, but just the self-confidence.
Yeah.
The ability to truly look at yourself and say, I got this.
Yeah.
And to mean it and to feel it in your soul and know, I can handle this.
Yeah. They don't teach that shit in school.
No. How could you?
Yeah.
I mean, really,
well,
how could you?
You could definitely put a lot more effort into it than they currently are.
Yes, yeah, they could. I mean, school's a joke these days.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad. I don't even want to get into it, but it's bad. They sit around and teach you this new math and the LGBTQ, nonsense. It's not nonsense if you're one of those people. What's nonsense is that
I'm all about
filling
inclusion.
Up that time in children's education.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be an educational course to include other people in life.
Yeah.
That's just a natural part of who we are. We should always be including other people in our lives, right?
Yeah.
It's silly that you have to teach that these
days.
That
you have to shove it down somebody else's throat.
Yeah.
The book that I was telling you about, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, it was finished in 1938, and his criticisms and complaints about the school system are literally the exact same problems we face with today.
Really?
Which means in almost 100 years,
nothing
has changed.
Right.
Absolutely nothing has changed.
Right.
People are just as put out and as blindsided by life after school now as they've been for over 100 years. The system of schooling is not new. What the system of schooling used to be, though, is more of a learning from everybody about life experiences, and especially in the one-room schoolhouses where the younger ones would learn from the older ones, and the older ones would learn from the younger ones, and everyone would kind of share their experiences. That was true transfer of information, and that's not something schools teach now to make sure that they have high enough test scores on some test that somebody else made up, and the people making up the tests are just the people holding the pocketbooks.
Right.
So they'll jump through whatever hoops they need to make sure that they get their funding, and it's not about, really teaching kids. It's about getting that money.
Yeah.
We're all coin operated.
Yeah.
And it's detrimental to the entire human race being that driven by and that's what makes it so upsetting, is it's the smallest amount of financing.
Yeah.
Like, there's not even that much money in it, but they hold the purse strings just tight enough that people put themselves through those hoops and learn the absolute bullshit so that they can get that paycheck.
Right.
And that's another reason that I take everything back to nature is your money's no fucking good when you're dying on a hillside.
I agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
No.
It doesn't mean anything at all.
At that point, it's weight that's holding you down or fire starter.
Yeah.
And a lot of our bills don't even burn that well these days.
Right.
I can tell you from experience.
Yeah. See, what's even worse with education, though, is that the kids go through school, and then they learn, we have to get these test scores because that's what is equivalent to our intelligence, and then they go off and they go into college, and then they go into debt to get a job that ultimately they're going to be unsatisfied with,
Absolutely.
that they weren't even prepared to have through that college course.
Yeah.
Because the college is doing the same thing that the early education is doing. They're just trying to get that dollar, and they're just trying to get those test scores up, and it doesn't even matter if the kids retain the information, and they're not being presented in education in a sense of think for yourself. They're being presented in education of, this is what I want you to think. These are the answers.
Yeah.
Now here's the test.
Yeah.
Instead of here's a situation happening with the world. What do you think, and what is your unique take on it?
Yeah.
They're not being rewarded for that kind of
big
that
problems
kind of
with the woke nation that we live in right now is it used to be that even though schools haven't progressed, they've actually slid back, because previously teachers would teach what they like, a certain curriculum.
Right.
And now teachers are teaching what they think you should think.
Right.
And the issue with that is they never made it out of school.
Right.
They went all the way through school and got taught this bullshit to turn around and keep teaching bullshit to people that are going to turn around and keep teaching bullshit.
Right.
It's a completely endless cycle. And that's why so many people, especially now, graduated college with these great prestigious degrees, and then as soon as they leave the workforce or the schooling and they're put into the workforce, it's a huge slap in their face, because the world doesn't work the way they say in schools.
Right.
So if you spend 12 years to graduate from high school, and then let's say you spend another 3 to 6 to 8, like, that's great to become a doctor or something, but if you're
behind once you get out.
100%.
You're behind financially, you're behind educationally, you're behind professionally, because the world keeps moving forward without keeping that education coming.
Yeah, and then you learn yourself into a box.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you can function is in that box.
What was really interesting about that is when I was in EMT school a couple years back, I remember the instructor, when we got to trauma, she was talking about how for years and years when she was growing up and when she was learning all of this stuff, and when she first became an EMT and a paramedic, she was learning it all the same way.
Yeah.
And she said that people would die all the damn time in their ambulances from trauma until the war in Iraq happened.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later,
huge lessons.
those guys who were combat medics in the Army and corpsmen in the Marines and Navy, they come back, they start teaching the EMT courses on trauma, and they're like, no, everything you've been taught is wrong. What we figured out through trial and error was this. And then all of a sudden, people are living longer and getting to the hospitals. And that's because of a flaw in teaching.
Yeah.
Because you're taught one thing, and then all those kids who were taught that as an EMT go out and they're on the streets of Denver or Austin or Los Angeles or whatever, and they're just doing what they were taught. It's because they're not allowed to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
But then you have these corpsmen going to Iraq, and then they're like, shit, that's my friend. He's dying in front of me. Just got shot in the belly. Let me try this. And it saved his life. All right, cool. And then he tries again the next time, and then he tells his friends, and they tell their friends, and then that information gets back. That's how real growth happens. It doesn't happen from, hey, this may or may not work. It's not, this did work. Let's teach this. And being open to changing that, so that you can learn from, the next failure.
Yeah,
And,
experience outweighs book learning 9
Every
times
time.
out of 10.
Every time. 10 times
Yeah,
out of 10.
yeah, 10 times out of 10. I mean, that's why some of the most respectable officers that I know
Yeah.
are not people that came up through the academy. They're
Right.
people that were actually in the shit in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all of that, and then came home to serve the American people.
Yeah.
And just their entire views on anything. Like I am very close friends with an officer, a sheriff from Wyoming, and he has straight up told me, like, everything that they try to have us do is complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about, again, chasing the money.
Yep.
It's
Dollars.
all about, this is what I'm told that I need to do in order for our department to get funding.
Mm-hmm.
And if I deviate from that, it's going to be better for the people that I'm serving, but I'm not going to get paid as much because I'm not checking those boxes.
Right.
So until we start to turn people away from the facade of learning and start teaching people actual learning, which is completely experience based, then, you know, I'm sorry, that was me.
You're okay.
Then there's not, I'm not going to say that there's not a lot of hope. There's just far less hope for advancement, and this is going to sound cheesy as shit, but advancement for our species, advancement for our planet. You know, there's all this shit going around about global warming and all of this other stuff, and as far as I can tell, it's mostly taught by academics who have never been out and actually ran these studies and collected these numbers. It's a number that somebody in the hierarchy put out, and it's peddled and peddled and pushed and never questioned,
Right.
because it's so scary to think about it, firstly, and once you have enough people thinking that way, then it's so scary to ask questions about it due to stigmas and everything. So,
Right.
I mean, that's the same thing that's going on with the woke culture. Is I constantly hear people say, you know, this is a fact or that is a fact, and just some simple thought games with that, you can be like, you know, that doesn't seem quite right.
Right.
And even to say, that doesn't sound correct is crucifiable.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, everybody knows that the Earth is flat, right? So.
And the moon's made of cheese.
It is, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there once. Lots of cheese.
Soft Parmesan, from what I understand.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, the world needs a radical change in mentality. We need a radical change in the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat ourselves, the way that we think about our planet and interact with it. All of this needs a radical change. Will it ever happen? I don't know.
That's why I'm making Wild Night Adventures.
Yes.
It sounds ridiculous, but my wife and I have huge plans to save the planet. Yeah. And it's not just saving the planet in the sense of stopping coal from burning and oil from being extracted. It's taking people out into the shit and teaching them to experience it and enjoy it. I mean, we would love to do a lot of work in the oceans and stuff, and the only way that we can do that is to actually go scuba diving and snorkeling and boating ourselves, find what there is to find, and then bring it back. I mean, how much of the rainforest gets chopped down every day, and we've explored less than 13% of it?
Right.
How are we destroying something that we don't understand even half of? Like, it's absolutely insane to me. The amount of ancient ruins sitting in the jungles and on the bottom of the ocean are being completely neglected and spoiled and polluted, and people don't give a shit about it because it's the things unseen that nobody pays any attention to. So if we can start gaining some traction with getting people outside, and it all starts with appreciation. Yeah. If we can get people to just go out and start appreciating what's out there, then that very well could turn into people caring more about what's around us and underneath us, and, you know, in the oceans and in the mountains and in the rainforests, and I mean, even under the sands in Egypt. Like, there's so many archaeological finds that would completely change the way that we think about everyday life that
there's whole armies from the past that are buried.
Absolutely.
They're buried in the sands, buried in under the snow in the
Siberia
Alps.
and the Alps, and yeah. There's, and that's something that I really hope to do is, I would love to make some kind of archaeological find, but what would be even cooler to me is if I can inspire someone to go experience it for themselves, and then they make archaeological finds, because I am an army of one.
Right.
But if I can get, even 100 people to go outside and start looking at things differently, then who knows what we could find and what we could, the ways that we could advance our understanding, because that's the only way to advance our circumstances, is to continue in our understanding of what we think we know, which anybody that says that they know is full of shit. I can't remember if it was Socrates or one of his predecessors that said, I am just smart enough to know that I know nothing.
There you go.
And there's a lot of people, and it all ties back into the current academic climate where we're taught to know things.
Yeah.
And not taught that we don't know shit.
Yeah.
And even the people that say that they know things are the people that are the most full of shit.
Oh, yeah. Remember when we were kids, we knew that dinosaurs were reptiles?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we totally knew that, didn't we? But now we're looking at evidence and we're seeing quite the contrary.
Yeah.
It's exciting. You have to be able to open up your mind, because if you don't, where are we going to go?
Yeah. People like Robert Schoch talking about the Great Sphinx in Egypt. We knew that it was made at this time by this guy and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And then something as simple as being like the watermarks on that indicate that it's different. 5 times older than what you're saying. And, he died without even being acknowledged that what he thought might have been correct, because of all the Egyptologists that were like, no, that's not what it says in the books.
Right.
And he's like, dude, I'm standing in front of it, looking at it. I've taken over a dozen trips to Egypt and then to corresponding places to make sure that what I see is correct. Yeah. And everything's pointing to me being right and you being wrong. He had very little accolades up until his death. He had almost a cult following of a few people that were not even saying 100% he was correct, but at least acknowledging that he very well might be.
Right.
And it's changing everything, how many times have we heard about the hunter-gatherers and the Clovis and pre-Clovis era people?
Yeah.
And they were off by a possibility of 15 to 20,000 years plus.
Yeah. It seems like every year we're finding the newest, oldest person.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy to say newest, oldest person, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No, 100%. We thought that
like every year
that human civilization has only been around for 5 to 10,000 years, and we're now finding megalithic structures that have been around for a verifiable 20 to 30 plus. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is still not dated, because the remains that they've found so far go back almost 10,000 years.
Right.
But they've only excavated like an eighth of the site. So the amount of finds that could be there, completely changing the way that we think about our own history, is immense.
Right.
It's phenomenal.
And we've lost so much of our history too, due to mostly wars throughout human history.
The burning of Alexandria.
Oh yeah.
Are you fucking kidding
the
me?
library.
How much did we lose?
So much.
Yeah.
So we assume, at least. So much. You have to assume though that there was something in there about like the great things that we always hold as mysteries, pyramids and Atlantis and the Sphinx and all.
What about
that
ancient medicines?
Had to be there. Yeah, medicines too, and technologies.
Yeah,
different inventions and people that we've never heard of now that we are lost to time.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing with other wars. Like what was it in? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank here, but I think it was World War II. The amount of bombing that happened destroyed
Oh,
so many
absolutely.
museums and stuff. Like we lost massive
Well,
amounts
let's
of
flash
knowledge
forward
and
to even
information.
5 to 10 years ago. All
Yeah.
the temples that were blown up by the
Yeah.
Islamic State.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those
Artifacts of history gone.
yeah,
Just gone.
smashed with sledgehammers,
Yeah.
blown up with dynamite, and hit with
Yeah.
pneumatic tools to just completely destroy our history
Yeah.
out of human arrogance.
Right. And
You know?
they're starting to do that now here in our own country.
Yeah,
It's starting to
absolutely.
tear down the statues because it's offensive. Look.
Get rid of that
If-
book because it
yeah,
says things that
yeah.
I don't like.
Why are you offended by a word?
Yeah.
Why are you offended by a statue? Look, the guy lived.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you can't change that.
That shit
You
happened.
can tear
whether
down
you
the
like
fucking
it or not.
statue, but he still was a guy, and he still did things,
Mhm.
and those things had a dramatic impact on the world.
Yeah.
You don't have to fucking like it. You just have to understand that it happened.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? But
It's-
people throw a fit now, and everybody's voice is so special that they all have to be heard. And because of it, now we have
But
to,
it's not.
to
It's
change everything.
It has nothing to do with everybody's voice being heard. It's loudest baby gets the bottle.
That's it.
It's not even a
That's it.
majority. It's a very small minority.
Yeah.
That's just so loud that people are like, "Fucking all right, shut up about it.
Yeah.
We'll do it if
Well,
that's
yeah,
what you
we'll,
need
we'll do
done."
what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to get them to shut up.
Yeah.
And that's breeding a level of, what's the word?
Ignorance,
Ignorance. Yeah,
like extreme
works.
ignorance. Yeah.
Across not only our country but across the world.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep growing until people just say like let's find a different solution. Do we have to nerf the whole damn world in order to make everybody happy? Or is there another solution? Can we say, all right, well, this guy was, a slaveholder in the South, and you don't want his statue here in the South. We get that. It's kind of a sore subject. I get it. Instead of destroying it, can we put it in a museum?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Can we still teach people about it?
Yeah.
It's like Hitler and the Holocaust.
Yeah. What in
It was
100 years are we going
terrible.
to pretend like he never existed? Just to not hurt the feelings of Jews. I'm not trying to be hateful.
No.
I'm saying like
you're 100%. You're correct. 100% correct. I mean, same thing with Stalin and Mao and all of those people. Like, what if the people of Cambodia said, "Well, we don't want even the name of Mao said,"
right.
And a lot of people. And I mean, this kind of touches on a different issue.
You're going to breed Mao version 2.
100%
is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not condoning anything
Right.
that was done during the Holocaust, but when people look at how terrible Hitler was, they don't even realize that Stalin dwarfed
So much
Hitler's
more.
numbers,
Oh yeah.
and Mao dwarfed Stalin's numbers.
Yeah.
But now everything's Hitler,
Right.
and like we don't even understand our own past. We don't understand what happened 100 years ago. We don't understand what happened 1,000 years ago. As far as I'm concerned, we don't even understand where we came from.
Right.
We don't understand who we are
Right.
as animals walking around on this earth. Like, we can study the fossil records of so many other creatures to learn that the T-Rex didn't have scales or skin.
Right.
He was covered in feathers.
Right.
His arms didn't go forwards. They went completely backwards like an ostrich.
Right.
Like, we can look all of that up and find that. We still don't know shit about where we came from.
Right.
Like, and that's truly disappointing.
It is, and I have to say that has to be because of us, right? It has to be.
Who else would do it?
What dinosaurs weren't having, wars with each other. They would fight and kill each other just like any other animal, but they're not having wars where they're devastating
wipe
their
the
past
other ones out.
to remove them from the records.
Yeah.
They weren't doing that. And so maybe that's why we can know more about dinosaurs or turtles or sharks than we can about people.
I totally agree.
Is because we removed that history. Someone removed that history somewhere along the lines.
But I have faith. I have faith that despite what's been lost, there's remnants.
Yeah.
There's remnants of it, and there's stories of it. And I mean, if you look back at Plato and all the other philosophers and all the other people that were keeping records way back.
We even have those anymore. Herodotus.
Yeah. Plenty the younger, plenty the older, like all of the historians that still live on in their writings and in their accounts and everything. And we've been very lucky that a lot of that hasn't been destroyed by the church, because they've definitely tried.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason that I firmly believe that we live in one of the greatest times that history has ever seen, is because there are all these great clashes going on, and a lot of stuff is being dug up and found and mentioned, that if we were to all stick our heads down and go to school like good little boys and girls and go to church like good little boys and girls, we would never know any different.
Right.
I was raised in a very Christian house where what was taught in the house and the church was law.
Right.
And it wasn't until I kind of got my own little rebellious streak and started doing research for myself that I started learning. And it still amazes me how many people around me aren't doing research for themselves.
It is kind of shocking, isn't it? People who, or the people who get their news from social media headlines, not articles, not facts, headlines.
And even if they are reading the articles, they're reading the articles from one.
They're reading opinionation,
source.
not facts.
Yeah,
and they're taking it as fact, and then they run with it.
Yeah,
and it's wild how many people just believe everything they're being told without ever looking into it.
Yeah,
and it's terrifying, really, because at that point you can spread so much false information and spread such false narrative everywhere, and people will actually believe it.
Yeah,
because they're not going to take the time to look into it for themselves.
Yeah, that's why I completely turned off the news. I mean, because Fox wants you to believe this, CNN wants you to believe that, and chances are that the majority of it is opinionated and used for some bigger reason that the less you know about it, the better it is for you to play into it.
Right. And which will probably all come down to money and power.
Yeah. And I'm no one's pawn.
Yeah.
I'm no one's pawn.
No.
I've got enough problems in my day-to-day life that I do not have time to be worrying about what everybody else wants me to worry about.
Right. Right. It has me worried, like with this whole Ukraine situation. How much of what I'm hearing is actually true?
Very little.
Very little.
That's something that I have dug into quite a bit. I mean, there's so many extenuating circumstances that nobody wants to talk about, both on the side of Russia and the side of Ukraine, and how America backed it, and China financed it, and Germany okayed it, and you're never going to hear that shit. You're going to hear Putin bad. Yeah. Well, Putin bad, but why?
Yeah.
Like, what is causing all of this? And nobody wants to fucking talk about it. They just want to post their little Ukrainian flags up on social media and act
because they want to be that rebel with a cause, right?
Exactly.
They want that social recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, I firmly stand with anyone who is being aggressed upon.
Absolutely.
Firmly. Like, you back somebody into a corner, damn right they need to fight back.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
As far as what
but
the
it doesn't
news
make
is
you
telling
innocent.
Me, yeah, exactly. It doesn't make you innocent.
Yeah.
Maybe you were pushed in a corner because you did something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I don't have enough information to say either way.
I completely agree. It's like the kid on the school ground that goes up to somebody and pokes him in the chest and pokes him in the chest and pokes him in the chest, and then they get hit in the jaw. And then they're like, "Oh, did you see what he did to me?"
Right.
And the teacher is instantly like, "Hey, I saw you hit him."
Yeah.
And then you're like,
but well,
what about everything else?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So there's something else happening, I'm sure. And that's the case everywhere, isn't it? I mean, maybe. I was going to bring up Iraq and Afghanistan, but that's a whole different jar of worms.
Yeah, no, it absolutely
because that was the same way too. I mean, have you ever read? You know who John Perkins is?
I do not.
He's an author now, but he was a economic hitman.
Really?
He wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You need to read this book. He admits in that book, like, single-handedly, I am responsible for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
No shit.
He says that in his book. He says because it was his job. I might be paraphrasing this, and I might be a little bit off because it's been a while since I read the book. But I'm pretty sure he said that his job was to go to Iraq and fix it before it became a war. And he couldn't get it. Because in his book, he details how you have an economic hitman who will go into somewhere like Iraq or Venezuela or Russia and will sit down and talk with those leaders and say, look, America wants to, for example, we want to build 100 gas stations. And if you let us build 100 gas stations, you'll get this in return, and both of our countries will prosper.
Yeah.
And they'll say yes or no. If they say yes, fantastic, we're building the gas stations. If they say no,
then you fall like Gaddafi.
The economic hitman steps out. He goes, all right, very well. And the economic hitman leaves, and then they send in somebody called the Jackal. And the Jackal comes in, and then that's when people get assassinated.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, well, you're not going to play by our rules. How about now?
Yeah.
Now do you want to build those gas stations? And they're like, no, still no. And they're like, all right, cool. And then they pull the Jackal out, and then we go to war.
Yeah.
He outlines that in his book, and he outlines it in, like, I think, like 6 different countries that he was taking part in this in. And it's incredible. You should read it. Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
I'll definitely.
It's interesting. It makes you read newspapers and look at the news and go, nope, none of that, nope, none of it, not one word.
I used to be addicted to NPR. I thought it was one of the most partisan and factual ways to get my news. Yeah. And then again, once I started doing my own research, I was like, oh,
yeah,
this all has an agenda behind it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's, it's, I mean, to take it back to the Ukrainian conflict for a minute, it's funny how we're still using Russian gas, and we're arming Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like, how
interesting?
How
right?
does that make
and
any
yet
sense?
We're taking Russian yachts, for some reason, right? Because we don't want them to sell them and use that money to fund their wars.
And we shut down.
Is what I understood.
Yeah, and we shut down our gas pipeline, and we backed the Russian pipeline that's being inspected, and the gas is being transferred to Germany.
Interesting.
Very
interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But still, you're not supposed to ask questions.
Of course not.
You're supposed to listen to what they say on the news, and you're supposed to listen
Zelensky
to
good, Putin bad.
Yeah.
That's all you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Never mind Joe Biden's son being on the operations team for Burisma, and it was the gas company in Ukraine, and knowing nothing about gas and profiting millions of dollars from the Ukrainian government, and from the biggest people backing the Ukrainian government, and nobody asks any questions about it. You're not even supposed to really know about it.
So Biden and what did you just say? Burisma.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like Bush and Exxon?
Kind of.
And Ukraine and Iraq now.
Except Biden's son was taking money from the heads of Ukrainian oil, which have always been fighting with Russia because Russia wants all of that from Ukraine. When he was called out on it, he said, my dad never had anything to do with it. Joe Biden is literally on video saying, I wanted the head, judge in Ukraine who was investigating corruption fired. So Biden called Ukraine and said, hey, if he's not gone in an hour, you're not getting your stipend that we guaranteed to give you. And Biden's exact words are, and son of a bitch, he was gone.
What?
Yeah, this was fairly recently.
Wow.
But all of it was suppressed before he took office and all of that, and nobody really wanted to pull the strings on that sweater very much. But yeah, it's all so deeply tied into stuff that they don't want us to know about, and propaganda is everywhere.
Right.
It's everywhere.
You know what? The more I think about things like that, and the more I hear things like that, the more I start to think, maybe Alex Jones is the only one who actually knows the truth.
Yeah.
Because
he's a psycho. He's a psycho.
Oh, he's a fucking maniac.
A lot of the things that he said have come true.
Exactly. And that's kind of crazy, right? I mean, he's trying to sell us some snake juice half the time, but every now and then the guy lets out a nugget of truth.
Yeah.
And people dismiss it as crazy and lunacy, but
it's because he said that they were turning frogs gay.
Right.
But the issue is that
they were actually changing sex, not turning gay.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, except for the whole turning frogs gay sentence, everything that he said about that situation was completely on par.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the guy gets a bad rap, and specifically because of the Sandy Hook thing, and that's unfortunate for him. I forget what exactly happened. I think like he has to pay a ton of money now because of words that he said because it hurt somebody's feelings. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to say anything negative about people who lost their children in a shooting. That's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it isn't. What I'm saying is that I'm pretty sure we're allowed to have free speech in this country.
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure that if you want to say that you think something is a lie, you're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand why what happened to him happened, except for that he was too loud and it pissed people off.
Because
and now he has to be canceled.
Freedom of speech,
and it's sad.
Puts a damper on forced ideals.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
If anybody's allowed to come out and be like, I don't know about that, then people start thinking for themselves.
Right.
And what happens if people start thinking for themselves, then that ruins people spreading propaganda.
Right.
Because propaganda is not just on social media and TV and the radio and all of that.
It's between you and me 100%, and our grandparents and our kids. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
It's the shit that you peddle from your own mouth that ends up being propaganda.
Right.
It's just got to play on your emotions enough for you to shout it from the rooftops. And then who cares about social media? If you're peddling it to your neighbor and your family, then they don't even need social media.
No, of course not. Yeah. I mean, I didn't fact check anything that you said to me. None of it. But when you're out of here, I'm gonna start looking up some of that Biden and Ukraine stuff because I'm curious, like what is out there, what information is out there,
Yeah,
because that's something I've never heard, and I want to know about it. That's
interesting
to me.
You're not supposed to hear certain things that go against the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you because I know about the Bilderberg Group.
Yeah,
I know about the secret meetings and freaking. Is that thing out in California with the owl?
Oh,
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah,
all that crap, right? All that stuff that we were told for so long. It was, it's nonsense. That can't be real. But it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely real.
How about the fact that
meetings?
Bush Jr., Hillary Clinton, and Donald Rumsfeld have now come back into the public eye recently and started saying that we need to do something serious about Russia.
Oh, really?
Aren't they the ones that profited from the last time we went to war?
For 20 fucking years and accomplished nothing?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Remember Mission Accomplished?
Yeah.
Remember that? I went to Iraq after that.
Yeah. We were in the Middle East for a long time after that.
Like what? No, I don't know where to go with any of it. It seems like we just constantly have to have some sort of a conflict in order to justify being able to say that we're still on the top. That's what it feels like to me. That's what it feels like. It feels like we want more money and we want more oil. And so in order to do that, we have to always have a bad guy so that we can always point fingers.
Yeah.
And always say, oh, no, it wasn't us. We're the good guys here.
And as long as it's the foreigners, then we're in good standings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's still people that believe that America can do nothing wrong.
Right.
We did super bad shit back in the day, but as of right now, we're the greatest country on earth. And that there's no way that you can tell a lot of people otherwise,
right?
Because the government takes care of
I'm
me.
one of them. I firmly believe this is the greatest country on earth.
Oh, I 100% believe that this is the greatest country.
But I've been to other countries.
I don't want to mince
though.
words.
Yeah.
America is by far the greatest country, the greatest experimental country that has ever.
Oh yeah. Nobody else has gone anywhere close to where this country went off of that concept of, hey, I wonder if this works.
Yeah.
And then, hey, it did.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the great things about this country is no matter where you come from, if you do it correctly, you can become a legal part of this country.
Right.
You can't go to Japan and become Japanese.
No.
You can't go to Russia and become Russian.
Right.
You can always come to America and become an American.
Dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Or you can go on a visa, you can kind of do those kinds of things, but you'll never be them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come here, now you're an American.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a unique little place.
It is. So, it's a very unique little place.
So anyway, let's get back to your business.
Okay.
One more question for you about
Absolutely.
that. What inspired you to quit your day job, so to speak, and go all in on you?
What inspired our forefathers to go to war against Britain in 1760 something?
Freedom.
100%. That's the only reason I did it, because I would rather work for myself 100 hours a week than work for anybody else for 20. And it's been hard. It's been a slog. There have been plenty of times where I didn't think I was going to pay my bills.
Yeah.
But here I am.
Yeah.
And I continue to grow, and I would sell everything I owned and rent the cheapest hotel and get myself back to work on my own projects before I would ever go sign a tax agreement saying that I was quote unquote property of someone else.
Yeah.
I can't do it. There's not enough money that anybody on this earth can pay me for me to do what they want me to do.
Right.
I refuse. I absolutely refuse.
I'm right there with you, man. Unfortunately, I do have my day job.
I mean,
I have to work that soul crushing experience.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against the company that I work for. It's a fantastic company. It's nothing against the people that I work with. They're great people. I like every single one of them.
Yeah.
It's none of that. I want freedom for myself.
Yeah.
I want to make my own rules, and that's something else they don't teach in school anymore. They teach you to go get a job.
Yeah.
They teach you to fall in line, learn a trade, learn a skill, get a degree, get a job, pay off your debt.
Yeah.
They don't teach you to think for yourself and say, no, you can do your own thing. You can. I mean, I did. I started Sensei's Best. I created a product that never existed.
Mm-hmm.
Got a patent. Went for sale. What did I do after that? Created another product that never existed.
Yeah.
Or it really kind of existed. And I tweaked it and made my own. What did I do? Got a patent. You can do this.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
If you want to quit working for somebody else and quit being a slave to the system and be free for yourself, you can absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Somebody else did it. Why can't you?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, is that absolutely, but anybody can. And yeah. I was always looking for more freedom, and that ended me up in the trades doing emergency fire suppression systems.
Right.
I mean, when I quit, I was making like $32 an hour, great benefits. I was almost to the point where I could be what they call a walking foreman.
Right.
Where I wouldn't have to pick
the
up
dream of the average working American, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as soon as I saw that ceiling starting to close in, where I knew that I was not even 30 years old yet, that was almost as high as I could go in that company, and I started looking for the other routes that I could take, I realized that no matter what route I took, I would be working towards a pension of something like $3,000 to $4,000 a month after I retired. And if I had everything paid off, I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah. But after 20 years.
after 30 years.
30
I wasn't
years.
even 30 years old yet.
Yeah.
And I got my pension letter in the
Right.
mail. And it said, congratulations, 32 years until you receive this amount. And I know most people would look at that and point at that number and go, that's what I'm working towards.
Right.
And I
That's not
died
enough.
inside.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not even close.
And to be working, I always say that I've only been online since about the age of 26 or 27, where I knew what I wanted out of this life. And I knew I was able to start reasoning for myself. And I was able to kind of wash away the brainwash that's been planted in me since birth. And I came to the realization that that's not what I wanted from life. I don't want to wake up and go to work every day.
Right.
So I'm going to bust my ass twice as hard now, so that instead of retiring at the age of 50 or 60 or 70, or some people don't even retire,
right,
I'm going to work twice as hard as someone who has a 9-to-5 now. And instead of just working twice as hard to get that paycheck, I'm working twice as hard to get that. They call it sky money.
Okay.
Because you grind and you grind and you grind and you grind and you grind. And it's little bits of money here and little bits of money here. Right. And hooray, I got my first real estate check, and it was $10,000. And that was for like 2 or 3 solid days worth of work.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
But it wasn't for 2 or 3 solid days worth of work. It was for 3 long years.
Yeah.
It was for 3 years of busting my ass trying to figure out the system, calling people, getting cussed out, getting hung up on, trying to figure out how I can structure this and how I can structure that. And you just put your nose down and you continue to grind, and you only bring your nose up to make sure that you're going in the direction that you're planning on going. And then one day you're able to put up your head, and it's just like money's coming from the sky.
Right.
It's freedom. It is freedom.
Yeah.
As of right now, I'm a slave, but I'm a slave by choice.
Right.
I'm a slave to the things. I'm a slave to my own will. I'm a slave to who I want to be someday.
Yeah.
Not what someone else tells me to do. And I've made massive sacrifices towards it.
Yeah.
And I would sacrifice everything that I own now because I still know where I'm going to end up. I absolutely refuse to live life on anybody else's terms. And that's my philosophy.
That's a good philosophy. That is. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you should definitely keep up with that.
Yeah. It's an old military saying that says, embrace the suck.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm not just embracing the suck.
Right.
I am learning to make love to the suck.
Yeah, right. I'm living the suck. I am the suck.
I am the suck. But someday I'm going to have an opportunity to put up my head and realize that all the things that I've been doing to get myself where I am are now being taken over by other competent people who don't want to be a number one. Because it sucks to be a number one. It sucks to be a number one. It's hard as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Everything falls on you. Yes.
Yeah, you have to have all the answers.
Everything falls on you.
Yeah.
Everything bad that happens to me is my own goddamn fault.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. There's no one I can blame it on. There's no one I can turn it to.
That's the best mentality you could ever have, though.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I remember one of those old like motivational posters. You know, they also have the demotivational posters.
Yeah,
and I remember one that said, "Just always remember that all of the common denominators in your life's failures are you."
100%. 100%.
And I think about that every single day, dude. It's all on me. All of it.
It's called. It's not. Oh, extreme ownership.
Yes.
It's called extreme ownership, and it's realizing that everything bad that happens in your life is your fault.
Yeah.
even if somebody else caused it, it's your fucking fault
for not recognizing
for
it,
not
for not doing
100%.
something else to
For
prevent
not getting
it.
ahead of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for allowing the person to do what they did
Right.
in your life. Because 100%, the common denominator in all of your shitty life experiences
is
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
did.
that's
On the flip side, this is the same with your success.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to see both sides.
Yeah.
Because you can't be that guy who only owns his success but never his failures.
Yeah.
And on the same token, you can't be that guy who only accepts the fact that he's always a failure and will never have success.
Absolutely.
Because you have had success. You're still fucking here, aren't you? You still woke up today. You
Yeah.
still accomplished something today.
100%.
Did you make your bed? Fuck yeah, dude. Accomplishment. Take it. Own it.
Yeah.
You forgot to make your bed? Hey, ass. Go make your bed.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know, you have to take the good and the bad every single day, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get bogged down with I'm always good or I'm always bad.
Yeah.
And they can't see that it's pretty equal 50-50 split.
Oh, 100%.
Really.
Yeah.
It really is.
Just like I said earlier, failure are the seeds of success.
Yes.
And only those who take time to water and nurture their failures will get to eat the fruits of their success.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I live every fucking day. Everything bad that happens to me is my fucking fault.
Yeah.
I chose it. I chose my life every day.
Yeah.
I wake up and I choose how my day is going to be.
Right.
And even if my car breaks down on the side of the road and it's freezing and I didn't take a jacket.
Yeah, you chose not to take that jacket, right?
I chose not to.
Yeah.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Because no matter what happens to me, it cannot change my attitude.
Right.
I know where I want to go. I know where I want to be. And not a million failures every day is going to keep me from trudging through that fucking fire to at least see what's on the other side.
Right.
The only thing that could kill all of my success is an early death.
Yeah.
In which case, it's probably my fucking fault.
Yeah, probably
it's probably my fault. But you know,
well, shit. I think on that, let's wrap this up.
All right.
I think that's a great way to end this.
I agree.
So,
keep fighting. Keep loving every day.
Right.
Keep loving everything around you. And if you fuck up and you fail, stand up, keep fighting, and it's your fucking fault.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Johnny, thank you for joining me, buddy.
Absolutely, big
Can't
guy.
wait to talk to you next time.
Yeah.
Can you give anybody information on Wild Night Adventures or how to reach out to you? Are you not at that point yet? You want to keep
we're not at that point
quiet?
yet, but depending on when people hear this, you can go to wildnightadventures.com. If the site is functional by that time, you know we're in fucking business.
Excellent. Fantastic. We'll talk to you next time, buddy. Thank you.
So, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Best Adventure Podcast. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Do something awesome for somebody. Tell somebody you love them. We'll see you next time. Thank you.